Fans, if you enjoyed Family Spirits, the adventures and evidence of Gallo family ghost hunters, you're going to love Family Spirits 2, Purpose and the Paranormal by Bobby J. Gallo. Paperback and notebook available through Barnes & Noble. More adventure, more evidence, more ghosts. Materialize your copy today.
Hey, folks, and there we go with the technical glitches. And you know what that means on this show, Creepy Conversations from the Castle. When we have technical glitches, that means our guest is going to be really good, because that means there's powers on the other side that sometimes don't want them saying what they're going to say or revealing what they're going to reveal. Sometimes they want it, sometimes they don't. But I want to welcome everybody. This is Bobby J. Gallo, your host, and from Gallo Family Ghost Hunters. You know me. And just a little housekeeping before we bring our guest on. Right now, we have over 42,000, actually 42,249 subscribers. That's our current subscriber count that we always like to tell everybody before this starts. So if you're joining us for the first time and you're on here because of our fantastic guest, please, please, please subscribe to the channel. We have a lot of great podcast guests, as well as an entire catalog of paranormal content that we know you're absolutely going to love. We were the original paranormal web series on YouTube. And we're, after about 15 years, all of a sudden, we're starting to get the recognition that I feel the family deserves. So with that said, we are being TriCast on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Right now, Twitter has about 8,000 followers and Facebook almost 6,000. So without further ado, we're actually going to bring on my guest. Now, folks, we've had a lot of great guests, and I always say that only the cool kids are on this show. But this guy's story is absolutely amazing. And I'm going to let him explain it. But suffice to say, he's a near-death experience survivor like myself. He is a haunted homeowner, and he's a published author, also like myself. So we have a lot in common, and I connected with this guy on Facebook. We became friends, and it's my honor to have him on the show. So we're going to bring him on right now. Ladies and gentlemen, Shawn Berry Farewell. Here he goes, and bringing him on now. Hey, Shawn.
Hey, Bobby. How you doing?
Good. You sound great. You look great. There we go. I like that picture of you in the promo shot with the holding the microphone. It looks like you were doing a lecture when that was taken. Am I right?
Yeah, that was a couple of years ago where I was talking a little bit about the story before the book ever became the book. I used to do some speaking in the past, and that was actually a pretty good night. It was called Mo Mondays. They have it here where I live in Ontario, and they have all kinds of different people come up sharing stories. So that night I had an opportunity to share a little bit.
That's awesome. And your book is called Fallen from the Light.
Yes.
And in that book, you recount your entire story. Now, it would be amazing if you just had one of the experiences that you recount in this book.
Yeah.
But there's a whole litany of the most amazing things I've ever read. I mean, Shawn, I have great guests on here, And I don't bring anybody on here unless I believe their story is real or genuine. Yours rings real, but it also rings unbelievably fantastic. So, how do you want to approach this? I'm going to ask you because this is unscripted. We did not plan this out. Do
Exactly.
you want to go through the points one at a time, or do you want me to ask you about certain things?
I mean, we can do the points, but I just want people to understand if they do purchase the book, it's not, the whole book is not entirely it's about my life struggling, but at the same time, I'm dealing with the universe at the same time. So it's like a lot of people didn't really know what I was going through. So, but we could start at the points in the beginning where the more sort of strangest things were happening to me.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So you talk about somebody named Gloria in the book. Who
Yes.
exactly is Gloria?
Gloria is my assigned guardian angel. Every soul, when it's created, God gives it a guardian angel. Call it a guidance counselor, like on Earth. But
Mhm.
they're with you through the entire Earth journey. And every time you go back, they're still with you, and they'll
Mhm.
continue to be with you for eternity.
Wow, that's incredible. And you said that Gloria um, appeared to you every night after you almost the first time you almost died was from an asthma attack. Is that right?
That's correct. They didn't think I was going to survive. My oxygen levels were dropping. In 1969, they didn't have a lot to deal with asthma, so they were concerned that
Right.
they were going to lose me. And every night, it seemed to be later in the early morning, probably between 1 or 3 a.m., this lady would approach me. But the strange thing about her is she had a glow around her. And it was like if I could hear her voice in my head, and she would just smile at
Hmm.
me and made me feel at ease. So that was the first time she showed herself to me, which eventually will become a lot more stronger.
Well, 1969. Now you and I are the same age,
I know.
and we both look incredibly good for our age. I just
And after what we've been through, Bobby.
yeah, yes, yes. You and I both
Yeah.
exactly right.
But
Um,
strange is that we're only 2 weeks apart, same year.
I know,
And so
I
you and
know.
I were pretty much on the same type of journey right through to
Yes.
up to this point.
And so you were 5 years old when Gloria first appeared to you. So you've been open. You've broken down that barrier between this world and the next since you were 5 years old, and
I
that's
know.
amazing. That's amazing. Now, your point number two is you said something about testing quantum physics. What exactly is point number two? Because we all know that quantum physics now is starting to prove a lot of things in the paranormal realm.
It's so true, Bobby. I
So
mean,
I want, yeah, I want to see where you come across on that.
well, I was 10 years old in 1974, and it was
Mhm.
the summer, and I lived across the street from a park, so that was sort of my second home as a child. And I remember it was like around lunchtime. I was getting hungry. I figured, okay, I'll cross the street, and I'll be home like in less than a minute.
Hmm.
But I see this car coming, and when you're 10 years old, you think you could beat anything. You don't have the concept of fear or death or anything. You just think, you know what, I'm invincible.
Right.
I remember that I start to run across the street, and if people have ever saw the movie The Flash, where he's moving and everything is like slow, and he's
Right.
just like going at this supersonic speed, it felt like that for a moment. And then the next thing you know, Bobby, I don't even remember getting to the sidewalk. I was just there. And then this guy jumps out and he screams at me, and he's like, "You!" And me being terrified, I thought, oh, I'm in trouble now. And I ran home, and he parked his car and he chased me. And I was hiding under the bed, and the doorbell's ringing. My dad's wondering what's all this ruckus going on. So this man is telling my dad, I ran your son over. We got to get him. He's hurt and everything. And my dad's freaking out. So I could see these feet walking around the bedroom because I'm hiding under the bed. I thought for sure I'm going to get a whooping because my father's a no nonsense kind of guy. He doesn't want this on a Saturday. And so I see my dad peeking down at me, and he pulls me out. He's looking over my body. The guy's looking over my body, and he's still not there. And my dad's got to calm him down. So my dad takes him to the kitchen. He gives him a few shots of rum to calm his nerves down. It took him about 5-10 minutes. And I remember I was behind my dad, and he starts to tell my dad, he goes, I swear to God, your son went right through my car. And my dad's looking at him thinking that's impossible, but he swears I went through it. And with quantum physics, anything is possible.
Absolutely.
But at that moment, Bobby, when I did run across that street, it felt like time just slowed down. But basically, it was angels that grabbed me and pulled me through that car to put me to the other side, because not just Gloria, but I'm also surrounded by, they're called warrior angels, and they watch out for me because God doesn't want me yet to leave, because I still have things that have to be completed. But when you're 10 years old, like, you don't know what's going on. You just think you're in a lot of trouble.
Right. Yeah. And I've had other guests where it's just like that. Like their time is not done. There's still a message that needs to get out.
Exactly.
And you talk, that's amazing. That's amazing. That would have been a story in and of itself. But then you talk about the dark secret. That's like your third point from the book. Shawn, what is the dark secret?
Well, darkness truly exists. And this is something that I know a lot of people might not believe, but until you experience darkness, you're going to know you're up against something that is just incredibly powerful. And, I started to sense this dark secret, and that was the time when I moved into the haunted house, which was 1987. I lived there for 2 years. And Bobby, this place was built in 1830. In the book, there's some history about the house. It was owned by a politician, businessman. You had to be wealthy because it's a mansion and it's on 200 acres of land. And you've had like helpers and everything because it's such a big place. So when I moved in there, because it was so large, Bobby, they broke it into 9 apartments. And we lived on the main flat of the house where I shared with my brother and my roommate. And when I moved in there, I brought my dog Bear, and I always tell people, dogs and cats, they're spirit detectors. They'll tell you when spirit's in that place.
100%.
And it just started, Bobby, when I moved in there. Like, things were starting to happen in that place, and I was being affected by it. And I started to learn certain things, that there is a dark secret in this house. But the question is, what is it?
Right. And you said that there was a dark spirit that would eventually reveal himself to you, and that dark entity actually came to you, was coming for you.
Yes.
I should rephrase that.
Yeah.
That dark entity was coming for you at one point. I mean, that's frightening. And before the show, we had a little discussion that I have a little experience in that. But tell me about yours.
Well, what I learned in 2011 with the help of some very powerful mediums, I know the truth now.
Right.
What was the secret in that house back then? But there was a dark spirit. There was 2. It was a man and a son. And he was doing some very horrible things back in the late 1800s, early 1900s in that house. And I'll get to that down the road. But there was a night, Bobby, it might have been about 5:30 in the morning. I lived on the main floor. So, Bobby, anybody could just crawl into my bedroom through the front window.
Right.
And you ever notice when you're in that state where you're half asleep, half awake?
Oh, yes.
So it's sort of that meditated state where your third eye is functioning.
Correct.
And I start to see this man sitting at the edge of my bed.
Wow.
Now, I'm thinking, did somebody crawl through my window and they're going to think that they're going to have their way with me? Now, I was playing semi-pro soccer. I was trying out for a professional football team. I was in great shape. So I knew, you know what? I'm going to grab this guy. I'm going to throw him right out the window. And as I leaned my body up to say, this is the first time, Bobby, I got to experience spirit energy. It was like a mist, and it shot off towards the ceiling, and it was spinning like a whirlpool, and then it vanished. And then it was like gone. And I remember looking around the room wondering, okay, what was this? And like I said, this was one of 100 other things that was going on inside this house. And I wasn't the one being affected, Bobby. There were women in the apartment that were being affected by this man. They've seen him, and they've had some experiences, some horrible experiences. I mean, I can go on and on and on and on, but this was an ongoing thing in the house.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, I do want to tell our audience one thing. And by the way, I want to say hello, Jeffrey. Hello, Fantastic Beasts. Thank you for doing, putting something in the chat. We love when people put things in the chat.
Sending love to everybody.
Absolutely. And I do see people coming in and out. I think most of them are staying, which is cool.
I hope so.
Absolutely. So do I. But I want to tell people, like, we're kind of going through these things, these points quickly for two reasons. Number one is this is an hour show. But number two is I want people, I don't want to talk about them too much because I want them to read about everything in your book. And I'm going to flash that up here right now. This is Shawn's book, folks, Fallen from the Light, and by Shawn Barry Farewell. And this is what you got. You know, we're gonna give you information on how to get this book, and you don't actually even have to get it from this actual podcast. I'm actually going to put it below in the description of the podcast, a link directly to where you can get his book. So I just want to let everybody know that. And we are going to now go back to him and I.
And then when we get to the near-death experience with the cancer, the front cover will make the sense that this is why I came up with the concept of front cover.
And I believe that's the next point. You died.
I did.
You died.
I was dead. But Bobby, it was beautiful. That was the thing about it. Like, people fear death, and I try to explain to you, it doesn't exist. Your body is just a vessel which will give it to Mother Earth as compost, but your soul is going to go home.
How long ago was this?
1994.
1994.
31 years ago.
I think Bill Clinton was president. Wow.
He was.
Okay.
A lot of stuff was actually happening in 94.
Okay. Now, this is what I want people to know. What were you suffering from?
I had one of the worst non-Hodgkin's T-cell lymphoma. And I'm going to explain this so people understand this now. To a scientist and a doctor, they know you're in a lot of trouble when you have T-cell lymphoma. B-cell lymphoma is easy to treat. Your T cells are your cancer fighters. They destroy the cancer cells that produce in your body every 20 minutes. You need your T cells. My T cells were infected. So I had nothing to fight with. So the only thing they can offer me, and they knew it probably wasn't going to work, but we'll try it anyways, because I didn't have much of a choice back then. I see Jeffrey there. Hey, Jeffrey. I was born in 94.
Crazy, right?
I know.
He's on this show.
I know. So, anyways, before I was going, and this is really intense. So before I was going to start chemo, I was about 5, 6 days away. And the last few months was horrible. Bear died on me. He had cancer filling his lungs up. And the day that he died was the same day I found the lump in my neck. And then I'm told I have cancer. So I remember seeing my grandmother go through it, friends go through it. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. My fiance was begging me. And I said, look, I'm quitting. This is what I told her, Bobby. I'm quitting. Go back to Montreal. Let me live my life out here. I'm done. And that night, Bobby, when I went to bed, I woke up probably 2, 3 in the morning, and I'm looking down at the corner where Bear used to sleep, and I could reach my arm out, and he can lick my hand because he always stayed close to me. And I'm staring at the corner, and then this woman's head appears from the floor. And I'm like, what is this? And she was very attractive. And then her eyes opened and they were serpent eyes. And she started to stare at me. And then her teeth were all sharp, jagged. And then her face was rattling if she was like a rattlesnake. And then I start to feel like somebody's trying to pull something from my body. And then she's trying to suck my soul because they realized he's quitting. We got him. This is our moment. We're going to get him. And I remember fighting this thing and screaming for my life. And she was taking me down. And then something severed that connection. I truly believe Bear's spirit came in because animals are also spirit guides. And he severed that. I remember running to the living room. I was whiter than the bed sheets. I got on my knees and I was begging to God, please, I'm sorry, God. I will fight. But whatever that thing was in my bedroom, please get rid of it. I said, I'll do whatever it takes to fight. And Bobby, I've never seen anything so terrifying in my life. It was like, you don't want to experience something like this.
Right. And I there's chills from head to toe right now. And I
know you get it. I know you get it.
And I could sense the sincerity in what you are saying, because you know what? A lot of people ask me if I'm psychic because I have 3 women in my family, my wife and 2 daughters. All of them have abilities. I'm not, I really don't, but I do have one thing. I can sense frauds. And I've come across a lot of them in the paranormal field because everybody wants to be famous. Exactly. Everybody wants to be the next star on Ghost Adventures.
Exactly.
Or the next guest, whatever. They all, the reason this field is so cutthroat is because everybody wants to be the next big thing. And that's why most of them are frauds. I'm sorry, but it's true.
And I'm going to tell you something, Bobby. It's the worst thing that they can do because the universe is recording this now.
Exactly.
And you're going to answer for being a fraud. And I tell people that just be you.
Correct. So when I hear you, I don't get any of those bad vibes. I hear sincerity. That's what I hear.
Thank you, Bobby. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. And I want this is why people need to read your book. You know, D.H. Parsons, who's a very good friend of mine. There's so many parallels between you and him. And he's also a man around our age range. And he, very similar experiences, very similar outlooks. And like you, kind of outside of the paranormal circles. And I think that's even more of a reason for people to look at you. Now,
well, I try to explain to people that because I have so many people asking me certain questions or whatever. I've had people say, Shawn, have you been chosen by God? And I'd say, no. I said, God came to me for help. And how can I say no? He created me. He's like my father. He loves me.
He is your father. Correct.
And it's like, if he needs some help, he's stuck, I'm going to do it regardless.
Right.
And I kind of make the story in the beginning because when I was young, I would have dreams and visions when I was in heaven. And I would be with people that were deceased in these dreams and visions. Mm-hmm. I'd be around angels. And then there was times I'm having a conversation with God.
Right.
So this is something how I came up with, this is how I'm going to start the book, where I'm in heaven, and he calls me in, and he's worried about what's happening on this world. He says, but I'm going to warn you, if you go back, people are going to try to hurt you, discredit you. They're even going to try to kill you.
Well, I'll tell you what, you're not going to be discredited on this show.
Thank you.
Now, you're welcome. Now, with all of that being said, this happened in the 90s. It is May 13th, 2025, and you're still here. So, Shawn,
well,
what happened?
We got to get back just to one spot, Bobby.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Go for it.
It's probably around September 12th. This is when I was sent home from the hospital. There was nothing left medically they could do to save my life.
Mm-hmm.
And this particular night, like every other night, I went to bed. And that night, I remember hearing this woman calling me. And this was Gloria. And I see these 3 lights coming down. And this is the book cover. And I hear Gloria telling me to come closer. So I feel myself like I'm stretching. I'm reaching my arms out like this. And then I'm just feeling like I'm floating. And I turn around, and there I am in bed beside my fiance. And I realized I just died. And then I hear this voice in my head coming from these 3 lights telling me, you're not done. You've got to go back. And I remember speaking through my mind, through the consciousness. And I'm like, I don't want to go back. I said, I'm just feeling this love that doesn't exist here on earth. And I was suffering, not from the cancer, from the treatment. And I don't want to go back. But the light was telling me, you're not done. And then it was like somebody severed that energy connection from my soul to the 3 lights. And it's like being on a roller coaster when you're going down so fast, you feel the G-forces. That's what it felt like, falling back. And I fell into my body. I jolted up. Big gasp of air came out of my lungs. My fiance got up. She thought I was having a heart attack. I'm trying to explain to her what just happened. And she's like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Go back to sleep. And I lied there, Bobby, for hours, staring at the ceiling, speaking through my mind, calling those lights again. Can you come back? Because that was really nice. I like that. I mean, I really want to go back. And 2 weeks later, Bobby, after that experience, I was back in the hospital. And this is the strangest thing. The cancer throughout my body was dead. And the doctors are asking me, what did you do? Because they knew I wasn't going to survive. But I didn't share this with them, Bobby, because I was afraid. I was afraid I would go from the oncology ward to the psych ward.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's what they do.
They do.
They think, because they have to have something they can put in their reports, and they're not going to put miraculous recovery.
No, because I had a young doctor the next day talking to me, and he said, Shawn, you were the talk of the hospital. He said, all the doctors were talking about you. He said, and he looked at me, goes, so tell me the truth. What did you do? And I just looked at him. I said, nothing. And he's just looking at me like with amazement, because he says, you probably made the medical techs in this hospital. And I'm like, well, whatever. I just want to leave now. Can I go?
That is one of the most amazing stories I've ever heard that was a result of an NDE.
And that's why the book cover, Bobby.
Yeah, let's watch that again.
I came up with the concept. Yeah, put it up there. So I've changed it a few times to finally, and people can see it's designed by my good friend, Nick Welsh. He's an amazing artist. He's just gifted. And I worked with Nick and came up with the idea of the soul of energy. And you see the 3 lights of energy. So that was sort of like how it was. It was pulling me up. It's kind of like if anybody's familiar with Star Trek, they have a tractor beam where they pull a ship in.
Right.
This is how it felt, Bobby, being pulled up. And I came up with the idea of calling it fallen from the light, because I fell from the light. And the three
Gotcha.
lights, and people will say, well, what are the three lights? I said, it's the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And that's the symbol on the side of the book there. You can see on the shoulder, you see the
You're
Trinity
wearing it
symbol.
too.
And I wear it too. And I wear this in honor of my Heavenly Father, because as you go through all these experiences, I know He has my back, which it's going to happen where He is now going to come and save me. And this is going back to, actually, it should be 2011, Bobby, where it starts.
You know what I really admire about this, what I like about this, kind of hard for me to put this into words, but there's many in the paranormal communities that try to separate religion and spirituality from ghosts and demons. And honestly, I don't think you can do it.
No.
But they try because they don't want to bring religion into it or whatnot, even though most paranormal investigators I know will carry around medals of Saint Benedict, which is about as Catholic as you can get. But
well, they use these things as a shield of armor to protect themselves, which is fine. And we are taught as humans, this is part of religion. But when I died, Bobby, there was no signs saying what religious group do you belong to, what political party, what race, what sexuality. It doesn't exist. What does exist is that we are all energy. God is energy.
Right.
The angels were created for us to help us, to guide us, to battle against the darkness, which this battle's been going on since the start of time.
You know, I want to ask you something that you touched upon before the show. And I know there's more points to your book. You know, we're about a half hour into the show. I cannot believe how fast this is going.
I know.
But you said that you wanted to put a warning out to ghost hunters. Yes. There's a lot of ghost hunters that watch this show. I want you to tell me, in your honest opinion, no judgment, what that warning is.
Think twice about what you're going to do, because something will attach itself to you, and it could just be pure evil. It will come home with you. It will turn your life upside down to the point where it wants you to end your life so it can have your soul. And this is where I'm going to touch about in 2011. We're going to get close to an actual physical battle against these dark spirits.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, there's Amanda. Hey, Amanda. Amanda's she's a beautiful, beautiful spirit. She works with me, actually, and she said, I'm going to try to get in because she had to go for dinner tonight. So I wanted to give her a shout out. So all the love, Amanda. Hope you're having a good dinner.
Amanda, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. And everybody so far who's joined us and who's joining in on the chat, I love it. You could say as many things in the chat as you want, and I will make sure that it gets on here for everybody to see. And here we have somebody else. Let's read this one. I loved your book so much. Thank you for sharing it with me. Truly an amazing story. I recommend it to everyone. There you go, folks. That's not coming from me. That's coming from somebody that joined us in the audience. So you should really check this out. And with that said, I think we're going to share Shawn's cover one more time. Well, we'll probably share it again before the end of the show. But Fallen from the Light by Shawn Barry Farewell. And we are going to be talking about how you can get this amazing book in just a few. Now, let's go back to your points. Okay, the next one that we have
should be 2011.
Read 2011. Okay, 2011. I have 2, 12, 20. Now
they'll all connect together, but it's best to start at 2011 because this is where the dark secret becomes the truth.
Tell us about it. I'm all ears.
So this, I get on Facebook. I actually got on Facebook in 2011. And again, Bobby, you and I became friends in July of 2012. And that's when all this stuff is happening, like insane. And it's funny that we just finally connected after 15 years.
because the time is right for your story,
Exactly.
not just to be told. You told your story, but for it to, I don't know, be broadcast to the masses. So at least right here, you have about 42,000 people
Awesome.
that can get that message. So go for it.
So Halloween was around the corner, and I wanted to come up with a kind of a Halloween story. So I remember my experiences in a haunted house. I figured, you know what? I'm going to write a little story called The Haunted House, the whole story. And so I did that, but I said, you know what would be really good? Let's get a picture. I don't know what possessed me to do this, but I was drawn into my closet, and I'm going through all my old boxes. And Bobby, you remember back in the 80s when you had a camera and you had to take the film out, take it to the drugstore, get it developed, and then you got your pictures.
Photomat.
Right. And then you're doing this through your pictures, going, oh yeah, nice. And you put them in a photo album, make sure they're all nice and neat and everything. And that's what I did.
Yep.
So it's 22 years later now, and I'm going through and I find the photo album. And I'm flipping through it, and there's the picture I took of the haunted house. I'm like, wow, that would be perfect. So there you go. So yeah, keep this up here because I want to point something out too. So I leave it, and about 4 hours later, I come back, and all these mediums around the world are telling me to stay away from it. It's evil. It's dark. It's like do not attempt to do anything about this. And then one says, oh, I could see the spirits in the window. And I was like, what? And I start to examine the picture. Now, if you look to the right, the bottom part, that's my bedroom. But if you look up to the second story window, you could see him. You could see his body, his head, and there's faces all around him. He's the evil spirit. And then if you focus all the way to the left, that second story window, you can see them all in the window looking at me. So when I was taking the picture, Bobby, they were all at the window looking at me. And this was the start of what was about to happen. And then I get contacted by Carolyn Chambers, and she's a very strong medium. And in the beginning, as we're talking, I'm giving her an opportunity. And then one day out of the blue, she brings my father up because my father he passed away in 2005. That's like 6 years ago from the time we were talking in 2011. Carolyn says to me first, she goes, oh, your father's very proud of you. And I'm just thinking, anybody probably just says that. And then she says to me, he was really afraid when he died, but those people you sent for him, they took care of him. And I kind of froze because the night before my dad died, I told him I had it arranged. People will come get you, Dad. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine. And I said, Dad, also, and nobody knew this. I said, Dad, make me a promise. He goes, what? When my time comes, be by the fishing hole with the dogs and everything, and I'll meet you there. He said, deal. And the next thing out of Carolyn's mouth said, oh, by the way, he's at the fishing hole with the fishing poles.
Wow. Oh, man.
I knew she was real.
Yeah. Well, I always say that there are 3 types of psychics: the genuine ones, the ones that want to be genuine, and the ones that think they're genuine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have another photo. Can you tell me about this one?
So this is Bear on the windowsill, and you got to focus in. I put the circle around. You could see her eye, her nose, and her mouth. She's one of the victims, and I'm going to get into this, that was murdered in this house. You could see her. It's kind of like she's screaming.
That's what it looks like to me.
For help. See, when I lived in that house for 2 years, Bobby, I would go through these mood swings. I felt like crying. I felt depressed. I was wondering what was happening. That were all the victims that had attached themselves to me. And I'm going to keep this really fast. 1988, a good friend of mine at the time walked into my apartment. Her name was Donna, and she knows who she is. And we were laughing and everything, and she literally stopped dead in her tracks, and she took her 2 hands, Bobby, and she put them around her throat like she was choking. She started crying, and she said, I can't stay here. And she ran out, and I chased her. She begged me, Bobby, not to bring her back in that house. She could not go. So I took her down to the subway. She didn't say anything to me. And then I came back to the house. I'm kind of wondering what did she see that frightened her so much? And this is where the truth, I said, will be revealed now. Now it was time for the spiritual realm to say, now you're ready. So Carolyn basically told me that evil spirit would have prostitutes lured into the house where he would strangle them to death. I know Donna saw it. I know she saw it. And that's what terrified her. And there's probably about 20 to 40 victims. There was a hired hand. He was part of it. He would lure them into the house. Eventually, he hung himself in that house because he couldn't handle what he was doing. And the son, he was raised to do this by his father. So basically, they were just murdering these women. And back then, Bobby, nobody would miss a prostitute. This is like the late 1800s, early 1900s. There's no records of these people. So to him, this was joy for him. So they were trapped in the house with him, and he continued to torture them and do whatever he wants with them. And this is why you can see in the picture, this woman was like basically saying, help us.
Shawn, I have 3 other pictures of you. I don't know, transfigure. It's like a transfiguration, metamorphosis type of thing. Is this a good time to show those?
Let's just finish up here and then we'll get to those.
All right.
So
you let me know when.
Okay. So anyways, I get contacted by a gentleman from London, England, Bobby Lockwood. He was another medium. And Bobby, he says, this is going to sound really strange, but he said, the spirits in that house are talking to me. And I'm like, okay, well, we need to talk. So at the time we were using Skype. So we would talk, at certain times because he's about 6 hours ahead of me. And Bobby was telling me that they were murdered. And Carolyn even verified that too down the road. And they wanted me to free them, but he's not going to let them go without a fight. So Bobby brought a young medium in from Australia by the name of Beck to sort of help out. And Carolyn said, Shawn, you were chosen to do this. You got to free them. This is what you have to do. And I'll be honest with you, Bobby, I didn't even know how to free these spirits because I was like, okay, what do we do? Do I drive from Toronto to Montreal, open the door and go, run, get out of the house, you're free? And she's laughing. She's like, silly goose. No, you don't do that like that. So she's like, we got to do a ritual. And I'm like, okay, well, what do we do? Right. So she was telling me I have to get all this stuff, candles and everything. And we're going to set up a timeline because Beck's in Australia, Bobby's in England, and Carolyn's in the States. So our timeline was the same. So we had it set for 6 a.m. Saturday morning. This is when we're going to do it. And about a few days, 3 days before the fight, Bobby's filming me in the basement. I think I sent you the link. You could hear him hissing, growling. The energy around me is just powerful. And like I said, if people are interested, you could have the link there. And he was basically threatening me to say, back off or else. And then a night before, Beck is talking to me, and she's very gifted. And we're on Skype, and as we're talking, Beck goes, oh. I go, what's wrong? She goes, oh, there's a little girl beside you. I go, really? She goes, yeah, she's really happy to be beside you. I'm like, okay, well, that's nice. And then she's like, oh, there's 3 women back in your basement, dressed like in the 19th century. They're like sitting there listening to our conversation. They were the victims.
Wow.
And then as we're talking, they vanish. And Beck goes, uh-oh. I go, what's wrong? There's a man walking around your basement. He's looking for them. It's him. And he comes up to me and he's talking to Beck, and Beck's relaying this to me, and he's telling me to back off. And I turned to him and I said, you're done. I'm coming after you now. You can't hold them anymore. They're going to be free. They're going to go home, and you are done. and he left. He was pissed off. And I had no idea what I was doing at the time. I wanted to do the right thing to free these spirits.
Yeah,
So they can,
force of will. And I've told this people many times, stand your ground, force of will. This is called psychic phenomena for a reason, because a lot of it happens up here. So and the worst thing you can ever do, this is another thing I tell people, is to be afraid. They feed off of fear.
exactly.
So
That gives them the power.
absolutely. So when you stand your ground and you tell them forcefully to leave, a lot of times that actually works.
It does.
And some people go, well, it can't be that simple. I said, because most people are too terrified at the time. But if you stand your ground, you'd be surprised.
So the thing is that I try to explain to people is that, let's say here is the physical realm that we're in, okay? Here is the spiritual realm, which is our home. In the middle is called the in-between. And that's where the demonic and the dark spirits like to play and torture us. These spirits were trapped in there being tortured by this guy, and they were crying to get out. So Carolyn, myself, Bobby, and Beck, we're going to rescue them. We're going to get them out of there. But it didn't happen Saturday because everything changed Friday night. I went to the store, picked up the candles, the sage, and everything with my daughter. I pull into my driveway, and I start to feel this energy all over me. Like I'm about to break down and confess my sins to my daughter. It's the weirdest feeling.
Mm.
And I said to Jamie, we got to get inside. We got to call Carolyn. Something's wrong with me. And we get into the basement, and it's happening. The battle is about to begin. And Beck, being young, still is inexperienced. I have her on Skype. My daughter's talking to Bobby through typing. Carolyn's on speakerphone. And Beck's telling me, just breathe, relax, relax. And I'm just sitting in a chair like this, just as I'm looking at you. And then I can't move, Bobby. I'm literally paralyzed. And I feel like someone's choking me.
Mm.
I got saliva coming down my mouth. I'm trying to turn my head to look at my daughter because she says, "Oh my God, there's something wrong." And I can hear Beck saying, "Oh, it's okay. It's okay." It's not okay.
Mm.
And my mind says to me, "This is not right." And then the craziest thing happened, Bobby. The craziest thing happened. I felt something go into my body that made me feel like Superman. And I stood up like I threw them off me. And I looked at my daughter, and she swears to me. She goes, "Daddy, that wasn't your voice that came out of you." And I went into the basement, and I said, you think you could keep me down? And I just start beating the crap out of them. Like it was a fight now. And Carolyn astral projected from her body. She said she went straight to the haunted house where she saw me sitting there with 100 dark spirits holding me down, and the Father and the Son were strangling me. She said I grew 20 feet and threw them off me. And basically the roof opened up, and here comes Michael, Archangel, with all the other archangels. They came down.
Wow.
Carolyn said it was the most incredible thing. She said the dark spirits took off like little turds. But the Father and Son, they were frozen. They couldn't move. And Michael walked up, and he just looked at the Father with disgust. Unfixable soul. Hit the ground with a sword. It opened up, and it swallowed him. Gone. A place you don't want to go. But the Son had a chance, Bobby, because he did not want this life. His Father taught him to do this. And my whole body was like electricity. I could feel every cell burning, and I couldn't stop this vibration, Bobby. I was like shaking like this. He was attached to me now. And I started to tell him things he never heard. I said to him, "I love you, and I forgive you, but you need to ask for forgiveness." And this went on for 15 minutes. And finally, the vibration stopped. I could hear Carolyn crying through the speakerphone. She's saying, all the spirits are hugging him. They're forgiving him. Michael opened his wings and then gathered them and then took off. And Carolyn just like was amazed. And I couldn't stand, Bobby. I was like wobbling like this. I had nothing left in me. I had every ounce of energy I used was gone. And I felt this punch in my gut. And it was the hand of God just ripping everything that was negative and bad in my life. He just took it out of me like cleansing my soul. And and I collapsed to the ground. My daughter's looking at me. I'm on my stomach, and she's like, I love you, Daddy. I go, I love you, Jamie. And then I start to feel that energy again on my face, both sides of my face, Bobby. And I'm like, Carolyn, help, they're back. And Carolyn's laughing. She goes, silly goose. Those are the spirits saying thank you. And this lasted for like 30 minutes, Bobby. It was like a lineup of spirits just touching my face, basically saying, thank you, Shawn.
Wow. Wow. That's really incredible. And I guess that's what you mean by the number 7 point, the spiritual warfare begins. That's amazing. Now you said that you got a gift from God. Was that part of it?
What happened was about a week later, and I have my YouTube channel with 3 videos, and I'm looking in the top corner, and I see this beautiful color, purple, blue, moving energy. This is 20 feet behind me. And I'm like, Carolyn, what is this? And she's giggling, and she says, silly goose. She says, that's a gateway. And I'm like, a gateway? She's a portal. I said, why is a portal in my basement? She said, that's a gift from God. And inside, there's a gatekeeper. His name is Simon, and he's going to allow the spirits in and out of your basement every night. This is part of your learning. So basically, every night, I had about 70 to 100 spirits visiting me in my basement every night. And it was crazy. Like the things that I was learning, Carolyn was like telling me all this stuff too, because she was helping me out. She says half the time they were dancing and celebrating. It was like a party, children running around, animals running around. It was like, but again, there was other things that were coming out of that portal.
You know, it's just amazing. It's like, I'm sure what you would describe that, your book is based on the supernatural, which is, to me, I call it the paranormal in the broad sense. I think you've had more paranormal experiences than anybody I've ever met, any single person I've ever met. I really shouldn't say that. I mean, psychic mediums have them every day.
Oh, yeah.
Like my friend D.H. Parsons has them every day. But yours are kind of varied. Let's put it that way. I mean, you go from love and light, near-death experience, spiritual warfare, spirits, all different types. It's mind-blowing to me how much that you've been chosen to experience, because here's the thing. When I'm on a paranormal investigation, sometimes I will ask questions and immediately on my equipment, the spirit decides to go. They won't answer certain things. And I've been told by a lot of people, including men of the cloth, that we're only allowed to know so much on this plane of existence. Like if you ask these, like they'll answer yes or no questions, they'll answer their name, why they died, things of that nature. But as soon as you start asking these metaphysical questions, like, is there a God? Have you seen heaven? Have you seen hell? Are you in purgatory, which is a limbo state here on earth? Immediately they're gone. They're just gone. And that happens to us so many times. It's very frustrating. But with somebody like you have these experiences all the time, and you seem to get the answers. And there's very few people that have that gift.
What happened is one night I'm talking to Carolyn, and her voice changed. Now, Carolyn's from Arkansas. She has a Southern accent. This woman talking to me now had a language I'd never heard. And I'm thinking, like, what happened to Carolyn? Who's this person cutting in? And she's going on like, blah, 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 sort of like this. And I'm trying to stop this person. I can't stop them. They just keep going and going and going and going. So I sat and I waited until they finished. And then everything went silent. And then I was like, hello. And I hear this woman. It wasn't Carolyn's voice. It was the same one. But now she's speaking my language. And that was Gloria. She finally started to talk to me. She used Carolyn as a channel to speak because she had a message quickly from God that I needed to hear this, and it was important. And she was telling me that I'm going to receive all these keys that are going to open all these doors, and it's like learning all the stuff and everything. And there was a few other different things she was mentioning. And before she ended it, she said, beware, the beast is near. And a week later, I had Lucifer show up in my basement, pretending to be Jesus.
Okay, then. That's something I don't want to experience, folks. But here we have somebody who has, that just, Again, chills from head to toe right now. Okay. So
You do the pictures now. I know we have almost 5 minutes, but I want to
yeah, let's
explain.
do
I
that.
want to explain
Give
that.
us a preface to this.
Okay, so my marriage came to an end because my wife was too much for her. But it was the darkness that broke this up because they wanted to destroy me. They thought if they could destroy my marriage, they're going to destroy me. And I'm going to stop my learning and my teaching. Wrong. I made an oath to my father. I'm going to see this through. It was painful, but I knew I had to do the right thing. So I closed down the gateway. I moved out, got an apartment, and I'm on Skype. And my friend tells me your face is changing, which I went through this before. This time she started taking pictures of my face. So if you want to put it up and I'll explain it.
All right, here we go, folks. I actually made a little montage. One morphs into the other. Let's check it out.
So see here, there's disruption through my face, but the background looks normal. So I said, take another picture. And again, you can see the back. There's no disruption. My face is something is definitely passing through me. And I said, take one more picture. And again, you can see here, this is spirit energy passing through me. And these were Italian spirits. I was speaking Italian. I don't even know how to speak Italian, Bobby, but they were trying to communicate with this girl that I was dating. It was her ancestors.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, folks, we've been doing this for almost an hour now, and you'll notice that we've kept the pace up. And the reason we've kept the pace up is because I don't want Shawn to give everything out because I want people to buy his book so that you can get the whole picture. You can go back, reread things. There's a very important message in there for everybody. And I think everybody should read his book. So what I'm going to do is I'm putting this up here now. It's Fallen from the Light by Shawn Barry Farewell. And Shawn, why don't you tell us right now where they can get the books, but we're also going to be putting a link in the description below this live feed once it gets posted permanently on YouTube.
Well, they can find it on Amazon in 3 formats: ebook, paperback, and hard copy, whatever they choose. I am going to work on a Audible because people are into that. It's kind of pricey, so I'm just going to wait till I get some extra money and I'll put it together. But I have a couple of friends that are listening. They're blind, and I promised them that I was going to do this for them. And this is for people who enjoy to listen to the story instead of reading it. People want to hold the book and read it, so that will leave the option for them to choose.
Well, make sure that your friends who are visually impaired watch this broadcast because this would be great for them as well.
I think one of them posted up. I think one of them came up, Jeffrey. I don't know if he said he was going to tune in tonight. So Jeffrey, if you're there, you're there. And there's also Brandon, 2 really super guys that actually give so much back. They're blind, but nothing stops them.
Right. Well, I should have said listen to this broadcast. So no disrespect. That's just, I apologize.
It's habit. It's habit because we're watching, right?
It is.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure they realize that as well. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I'm such a bonehead sometimes.
Oh, you know what? Don't worry about it.
But yeah. And let me ask you a quick question because we have about a minute. Would you ever consider going on a paranormal investigation?
I've considered it, but I can walk into a place and I could just feel them all over me. It's like they see me. Oh, there's Jeffrey. Hey, Jeffrey, I'm one of the blind guys. There you go. He's a super guy.
I can tell he's a super guy.
He's a super guy. And I've wanted to help spirits trapped. And that's one thing I did with the Gateway. Me and Carolyn, we freed a lot of spirits from the in-between. So that's one for the good guys.
Okay. Thank you, Jeffrey. Look at that. Jeffrey, what a nice guy.
Oh, he's super guy.
We say watch all the time. It's just a figure of speech. Thank you, my brother.
Thanks, Jeffrey.
Thank you. Well, folks, look at that. We are right 1 hour on the wow. How did we pull this off, Shawn?
You know what? It's timing. It's like you and I, we've done this for a lifetime on the other side. So it's like, and people have to understand, this is the first time Bobby and I are actually speaking. We didn't talk or anything. Like, we did a couple of messages stuff just preparing for this.
Yep.
But it's just when two souls come together that are at the same frequency,
We're
it's
aligned.
it's perfect. Like, there's no miss to it.
I think this was a phenomenal show.
I hope so. I hope people got a message from this to understand that you need to stay in the light. Hey, June, I grew up with June, by the way. Here's June.
Oh,
hey, June,
awesome.
I grew up with her. Yeah.
Thank you for coming, June.
Thank you, June. And Chris Crawford, I hope he put something there. He has stayed with me through this whole ordeal where most people ran away from me. So, and you know this too, like, you have people, they think, oh yeah, I'm up for this. And then they see the truth and they run away from you.
Right.
And that's the thing about having true friends. There, love and light, see? There we go. And I always say this to people all the time, love and light. But yeah, Bobby, I mean, it's just, it's the frequency, it's the level. Look, 1 hour well spent.
Wow.
Thank you, June.
That is high praise indeed. That is high praise indeed. Thank you, June. But no,
Bobby, you're getting the love tonight, and that's, you know what? And I try to tell people this. People think you need to put fear and so you can control people. I'm like, no, love outduels fear. Love is the most powerful weapon in the universe.
Right.
You can destroy it.
Right. I could not agree more. I could not agree more. Yeah. And you know what? And I said this to D.H. Parsons. I keep bringing him up because you are very much like him.
Thank you.
And if you ever want to go and watch his episode,
yes, actually,
I think you'll really like it. You'll really like him as well. But
one thing I want to mention before I leave.
Sure.
A friend of mine from Tasmania, Jeanette, she wanted me to write the sequel to this book, which I may do. And that will be the 6 months that I spent working with the Gateway and everything that was coming out. So that's something I'm going to focus on down the road, because I want people to first understand my journey was actually, even though it was hard, it was still beautiful because it's life.
Right.
And I struggled with everything in life, dealing with the universe on top of that. But the most important message I try to tell people is don't give up.
Right. And why is it, and the one thing I just wanted to get in really quick about D.H. Parsons and you is why I said the same thing to him. Why does it feel like I have known you I know we've been Facebook friends, but that's not what I'm talking about. I feel like I've known you for a very, very long time.
I think
this is the first time we've ever spoken.
I think, Bobby, when you and I cross over, and we'll probably do it around the same time, we'll have our life review. You see, my book is a life review of my time on Earth now. But when we go home, we're going to see each other. And we're going to go, oh my God, we've done this before in past lives. So this is why it's so natural with you, because it's like, I've done this with you before.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, I have my grandfather's genetics and he lived to 92. So you have a while.
You know, that's funny because I had a woman tell me a long time ago, she said, you're going to live till you're 92. How strange is that?
Get out of here.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yes.
What a way to end the show.
I know.
Well, come on. The synchronicities here are off the chain. I mean, they really freaking are.
She told me this like almost 30 years ago. She did a reading. She says, oh, you're going to live to 92. I'm like, but I don't want to live to 92.
You're living to 92, but there's always one setback to that. When you get to 92, you know what you know. But that's okay.
And your vessel just doesn't function the way it used to.
Right. But by that time, you're ready. You're ready to move on and be with your family.
And Bobby, I have no fear. I pray every night to God, and I ask him to continue to keep me in his light and shield me, keep the archangels around me. And God, when I'm done with my projects and you feel it's time for me to come home, make it peaceful.
You know, and amen. But you know what? Let me tell you something, Shawn. You went through a lot. Things that are more terrifying, that most people couldn't handle. They're just too terrifying. But the blessing on the other side that you've got out of that is that knowledge. like I had a near-death experience that I wrote about in my second book, but we don't have time to talk about it here. But what I got out of it is I got to see my father, and now I know for certain where he is and where I'm going someday.
I'll add one thing because I kind of I don't know if I mentioned it in the book, but since I've been here back to Earth, I've had 5 experiences with God, 3 in his light, and twice he showed himself to me as a man. And I've been visited by Jesus and Mary. I've been visited by David, King David. I've been visited by the archangels. I woke up one night, I had Michael standing in front of me, and what a sight. I can see why now they don't mess with the archangels. So I've been given this gift of seeing these things. And I'm like, even though I've seen the evil, I've seen the grace.
And folks, if you want to read more about this, if this podcast was not enough, here is where you go. You go to Amazon, get Fallen from the Light by Shawn Barry Farewell. I know I'm going to be getting my copy. Can't wait. And you should definitely get yours. So, Shawn, thank you for being on Creepy Conversations from the Castle. And I have to say, parts of this interview tonight were creepy. So it lives up to the moniker here. But thank you so much. It was an honor to have you on the show. It really was.
Bobby, thank you to give me an opportunity and a platform to share this message, to let people know out there that make a difference in your life and just follow that light, and it will show you what you're looking for.
Absolutely. And feel free to share this. You can go onto YouTube, get the link, share it out as much as you want to, as many people as you want, embed it in the website. I don't care. Shawn, thank you very much. I want to thank you. I want to thank everybody who joined us tonight and participated in the chat.
Thank you.
I'm not going to go down the list because there's too many people, but everybody, thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining us tonight. You guys were amazing. Amazing is the word.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep. All right, Shawn, have a great night, and everybody else, you have a great night as well. And we're going to end the stream in 3, 2, 1.